Hi guys, Forgotten Wolf here, and today I'm going to be answering the question, did anyone really win the War of the Five Kings? Before I begin, thanks so much for 200 subs everyone. I'm going to be going from each king slash faction and assessing what they won and what they lost before answering the question at the end. With that out of the way, let's begin. I'll start off with Renly Baratheon. While he did assemble the biggest army and created the most alliances, he became the most powerful king out of the five kings. He won the support of the Stormlands and the Reach, but he still died. He was killed by his own brother very early on into season 2 and never even got to battle. Renly Baratheon died without a major victory, and all his allies in the Tyrells and the Stormlands went to support his biggest enemies in Joffrey and Stannis Baratheon. So, Renly Baratheon definitely did not win the War of the Five Kings. There is no shot he won that. Next, I'll go over Robb Stark. Robb and the North, along with Renly, was the most powerful king. While Robb captured Jaime Lannister, won the River Lords, and won every single battle, he got a crown and king in the North. He also got a wife in Talisa. However, Robb, although he won a shit ton in every battle, he and the North are undeniable losers of the War of the Five Kings. Robb freed Theon Greyjoy and broke his oath to the Freys to marry Talisa, which cost Robb his kingdom in the North, and ultimately his life. Theon returning home started an Ironborn invasion of the North that captured Winterfell, decimated the North, left Winterfell sacked, and he lost his family's seat of power, which led Bran and Rickon to flee for his lives. Also, Robb's actions left Sansa completely stranded in King's Landing with little to no hope of being rescued. If it weren't for Littlefinger, she'd still be in King's Landing. Robb and the North left House Stark basically gone. The War of the Five Kings destroyed the North and its citizens. Overall, Robb and House Stark are huge losers of the War of the Five Kings, as Robb, Talisa, and Catelyn all died at the Red Wedding while Winterfell and the North was sacked and conquered. Next, I'll go over Joffrey Baratheon and the Lannisters. While yes, the Lannisters did retain the Iron Throne and King's Landing, it came at a heavy cost. The Lannisters spent a bunch of their gold to win the War of the Five Kings to the point where they basically had no money left by season 4. They spent all their gold, and their army suffered tremendous losses as Robb Stark destroyed a bunch of the Lannister army, as did the Battle of Blackwater Bay. The alliance with the Tyrells did help them in the short run, but it left Joffrey open to being killed, which Joffrey died right after the War of the Five Kings ended, which means you can't really crown Joffrey a winner either. Tywin and Kevan Lannister also failed to remove Cersei from power, which really fucked the Lannisters over in the long run. The war completely severed all relations with the North, the Stormlands, and Riverlands. Did the Lannisters win the throne? Yes. However, did it come at a cost that makes you question if it was worth it? Yes. It came at a tremendous cost. They lost a lot of gold, and their army was left in pieces and utterly destroyed thanks to Robb Stark and Stannis Baratheon. While yes, Jaime is able to take back River Run, we can assume there were tremendous losses. And now for king number 4, Stannis Baratheon. Stannis had the rightful claim, and he came really close to winning the War of the Five Kings. He was just a couple hours short of taking King's Landing and defeating the Lannisters. Had Stannis been a day or two quicker, he would be king. But he didn't. He didn't take King's Landing. He lost the War of the Five Kings as Stannis died fighting in the North, but that was after the War of the Five Kings. In the actual war itself, Stannis killed his own brother. Let's not forget that. He murdered his brother to get the throne, and what did he win? Nothing. He lost his army, he lost basically all his ships, and Stannis himself suffered tremendously, and Stannis is undeniably a loser of the War of the Five Kings, arguably as much as Robb was a loser. Finally, the last king, Balon Greyjoy. I'll cut this short as he lost. Based on what you're on, Greyjoy said Balon destroyed a lot of his ships and navy, but Balon did get Theon back, only to send him off to get captured and tortured. This guy invaded the North only to come out with a war with less ships, a son that's tortured, and a country that doesn't really like him. Balon also didn't get any of the North, and Euron Greyjoy was completely correct in killing Balon. In conclusion, none of the Five Kings won the War of the Five Kings. That's to say, there weren't 0 winners in the War of the Five Kings. I'd argue you could say there are 2. First, House Tyrell. They got Margaery to be queen, and they rose to immense power. However, they didn't do anything with that power, and while technically you can call them winners, I'd argue they weren't really winners, as they entered an alliance that would destroy their house, as when the war ended in 300 AC. By 4 years later, the house would go extinct. The only actual winner of the War of the Five Kings, you could argue, is Daenerys Targaryen. The instability of Westeros caused by this war, along with everyone basically destroying each other's power, made it so the kingdoms like Dorne were driven to Daenerys, and eventually the North was driven to Daenerys. Daenerys Targaryen, with her dragons, became destined to conquer the the Westeros and the Seven Kingdoms, based on the destruction of the War of the Five Kings. And yeah, that does it for me. And I forgot to mention this in my FNAF Timeline Part 2 video, but at 300 subscribers, I'll be doing a video comparing Robb Stark and Jon Snow. But until then, bye!